welcome back. It's Christine again with the Artist Pod, and today we're going to talk about how to draw a panda. So, let's get arting. Alright, so here is the panda. Pandas are relatively simple to do. Their heads are just big circles with two little circle ears, and then you have kind of these oval shapes that are the black around the eyes. But otherwise they're just white, so we are just gonna hop right in. Just like a lot of animals, the hair by their nose starts out really small. So I'm staggering it just like I always do. Now sometimes the direction you're drawing makes a difference, right? So the way I have the hair coming down on the nose, it's flaring out instead of coming around. So the way I'm going to get this bend is I'm going to start from above it. So instead of drawing down to up, when I come down, I'm actually going to just draw up to down, because that's going to allow me to avoid a line conflict. If I was trying to make this bend happen, it won't look awkward. But always staggering the lines and then just building it up. And just like before, you know, when you're doing the hair around their little cheeks, you're going to follow the nose, but otherwise have the hair coming straight off. And by the time it gets to this inside, it should be rotating in a bit. Now at the bottom, even though I'm coming straight down, at the bottom I typically will have a small curve to it. Sometimes, not always. Now I'm jumping up, not connecting to the nose because of how I have the eyes. I want to make sure that there's no line conflicts and that there's a nice smooth transition. Sometimes in animals, I've seen it in like zebras and stuff, you'll have a midpoint where some hair kind of comes off to, a central point where there's almost this circular spot. It's probably what I'm going to do for the panda because of how their hair kind of works. So I just have to make sure I'm connecting it all back in a way that makes sense. Alright, so there we go with the white. Now we will add the black in, so we'll do gray because too much important information is in the black. So we're just going to come here and select gray down here and then get it done. You know, black is when you're drawing on black, it is trickier to draw black in, especially when you're using a gray, so it is just something to be very mindful about how many strokes I add in, things like that. I want to make sure it doesn't look gray, basically, right? Like I need to make sure it's light enough to show up, dark enough to look black, while still being a pretty mid-tone to light gray. Panda ears aren't quite like other animals. Sometimes visually you can kind of see where the entrance to the ear is, and sometimes you can't. It just looks like a little knob. So you know, so it makes it a little more flexible if you don't want to add the details on an ear. With a panda, that's fine, because there are many times where you can't see the details on their ears. They are distinctive, though. It's the ears and eyes that sort of make the panda. It's why people can draw, you know, when you're drawing on white, you can draw just the black of the eyes and the black ears, and everybody kind of instantly knows that's a panda. All right. It's looking distinctly panda-like. With a cute little smile there. So I'm gonna have the light source coming from over here. Just like always, that means that it's coming from above and in front of, not behind, so that gives the best chance for the subject to have a lot of light on their face. And let's just get started. Now then, where the hair of the nose meets the nose, where the hair meets the nose is maybe the better way to say that. It's a little bit sort of scraggly, so I'm probably going to have a few wisps of hair coming kind of down, just that bit. That's why I'm doing that, is adding just that little bit of extra hair where it's kind of thinning out as it comes over the nose. Now, as always, when we come to this edge, right, I am lessening my pin pressure. Even though he has an ear coming up from here, it's still kind of the rounding of his head here. So the panda, like a lot of animals, right, like the sort of lip or cheek on the far side of the nose, which is away from the light source, is still going to be picking up some light because the nose doesn't stick out enough to cast a big shadow, and because this would be like another circle, you would still add just a little bit of light against the sort of bulge that is the cheek there before it goes into shadow. Same is true for the bottom lip. But just like, I usually do, I find it easier to do the lighter when I am transitioning into a more shadowed area because of the control I get. All right. Now it's time to move on to the gray for the black. Just have to be careful with that. As I've talked before about using gray, because I work on a black background, you want the gray to still appear black. But because I also will take these designs and print them on shirts, I need it to be brighter than a mid-tone gray, and so there can be a weird sort of balancing act involved in making sure you can add shadows and highlights, but that it still is sort of fooling our eye into thinking it's black, even though it is not. Typically, to be a lot more meticulous with my lines when I'm doing this. Not putting full pin pressure either. Alright, so pandas have... Oh, before I do that, gotta do his nose. Almost forgot his nose there. Sorry. They have brown eyes, though. We'll be doing the eyes after we do the nose. Alright, so pandas have brown eyes. Theory, you can see the white sometimes around their eyes, but we're not going to worry about that. Should still work just fine. Alright. So then, as always, I take the select tool here, the round select tool, and I just make sure that the lines around the pupil are nice and straight and the same size on both eyes, the same height. Alright. Now with the light source coming again from over here, first thing I'm going to do is make this burst of light against the edge of the pupil on the far side, and then I'm going to start filling in the deeper color on the side with the highlight. So all of this would have that sort of deep color. This edge is going to go into shadow, so I'm going to lightly fill that in. But under here, as it connects to this bigger highlight, it's going to still be in highlight before it goes into shadow on this side. And then of course this edge would also be in shadow, as would the edge up here, so it starts getting into the black. Would taper that off into shadow. And we're going to do the same thing on this side, that hard highlight, before we come into the highlight that's going to kick in over here and underneath. While leaving this side in shadow. Alright, and then the last thing is just adding a little light flare, which is so important when you're doing any drawing. Anytime you're drawing eyes, I think it's vital to really making sure the eyes have the right look to them. I always start on the eye that has the most shadow and get that position right so that I can then mimic it on the other side. Take that same selection, move it over, and then I just try to make sure I've matched it on both sides to where, on the second side to where it was on the first. I think this needs to move. Yeah, I think that looks right. Alright, so that is how you draw a panda. I hope that was helpful. In the floating nether next to me of other videos of art tutorials I have done, and I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Take care.